I am reading from Lee Smith's Fair and Tender Ladies, a selection about Christmas. And keep in mind that the speaker is about a 9 or 10-year-old girl named Ivy Rowe, and her father is on his deathbed, and the family is in fact starving. Dear Miss Brown, to answer your question, yes, we did have Christmas. It is different. We do not have a tree here, nor have ever seen one. Oakley Fox said you and Mr. Brown have made a tree and hanged it with play pretties. I would admire to see it so. On December 25th, that is not a thing happening as a rule, but on old Christmas Eve, that is January 5th, this is when Gaynell and Virgie Klein comes over and tells stories all night with Daddy as they did it when Daddy was young. This is Christmas to us. So to answer your question, on December 25th, there is not a thing happening here on Sugar Fork, nor even down on Home Creek, but that folks drink liquor and shoots off their guns. I do not mean us. We have got no liquor here now, but Ethel and me shot the gun. It was fun. You could hear them bang like thunder up and down the fork and clear down on Home Creek. Ethel and me was out in the snow. I was wearing Daddy's coat and his old black hat. Mama says he will never wear them again. It had froze all the previous night. As I walked out there, Mrs. Brown, it was so pretty that it like to have took my breath away. Ice just shining on each and every limb of every tree, and icicles thick as your arm hanging down off in the house. It was like I looked out on the whole world and I could see for miles off down the mountain here, but it was new. The whole world was new, and it was like I was the onlyest person that had ever looked upon it, and it was mine. It belonged to me. Now, it is new for me to feel this, as I have not had hardly ever a thing of my own. It is hand-me-downs and pitching in and sharing everything up here on Sugar Fork. There are so many of us here, as you know. But I looked out over them hills, and the land was sloped so different from the snow, and every tree was glittering, and Sugar Fork black and singing along most under the ice. The snow come plumb up to my knees. Nobody else had got up yet, and I reckon I was the onlyest one in the world. My breath hung like clouds in the air, and then the sun come up. It like to have blinded me. Well, now, this is the time I know, Miss Brown, when you pray. But to answer your question, if I pray, I cannot. So I know I'm evil, but I do not feel evil. And this is what happened next. I heard them guns popping all through the hills, and then I knowed it was Christmas, which I had clean forgot. All the rest of them was sleeping in the house. Ethel, I hollered, and directly she come, wearing Daddy's dead mama's old coat. It looked so funny, I like to have died. Get the gun, I hollered, and while she was doing it, I lay down right in the snow and made angels. I must have made 1,000 angels, but I never got wet. That snow was as dry as powder. Lord, it was a pretty, pretty day. Then I stands up and brushes off Daddy's coat real good and drawed in my breath real good, and it was like I was breathing champagne. And I says, I am the Ice Queen, right out loud. I felt so good. Then Ethel come running out with the gun, and we fired them. I love that blue smoke and the way they smell. Well, this woken everybody up, of course, and they flung open the door and all come out a-hollering. Even Beulah, who is big now, and little Danny, he was sick. He is sick. He was laughing and crying at once. And then do you know what happened next? Our mama tied back her hair and smiled and popped popcorn on the fire. Did you ever hear of such a thing as popping corn for breakfast? It beat all. So that is what happened on the morning of December 25th. And next I will tell you what followed, which it is so strange I cannot credit it yet at all. It was along about evening, and Ethel and Garney and me was all gathered up close to the fire, trying to get dried out. We had done gone down to Home Creek and slid on the ice with the neighbor people, the Conaways and the Rolettes and the Foxes. They were all out there sliding, and Delphi Rolette, he was playing the fool. He brung a little old rocky chair out there and was pushing all the little ones around on the ice. One time his old woman Reva Rolette come out a crying and a twisting her hands and saying, "Oh, Delphi, come back in the house. You know you are crazy drunk and you are going to hell for certain." But Mr. Delphi Rolette, he just laughs a big laugh and pushes little Dream of Fox around, the leastest one of them foxes, around on the ice. And I have heard tell how Mr. Delphi Rolette is so bad to drink, but you cannot tell it. I think he is nice, but his old woman is touched for sure. She is crazy religious too. Oakley Fox says she talks out of her head, and will swallow her tongue if the rest of them does not hold her down and grab it. She is a big, large, fleshy woman, and real religious, so they say. And Oakley Fox is telling me all this. And then he says, "Come on up to the house now. My mama says to bring all of you up there afore you set off for home." Now Oakley's mama, Edith Fox, was real slight and ashy pale. Her hair as light as Sylvain's. "Oh, honey," she says to me, "how are you a-keepin'?" She's not as big as a minute, that Edith Fox. And then she just up and kisses me, which set me off to crying. I can't say why, though. It is like Oakley's mama is little and soft and sweet. But my mama is as hard as a rocky cliff, and her eyes burn out of her head. "Looky here, young'uns," Oakley's mama says, and she'd given us a hunk of apple stack cake apiece, which is the bestest thing I've ever put in my mouth so far. And Oakley and Dreama and Ray get stack cake whenever they want it, I reckon. Their daddy lives at a camp in Coburn. He's got a big job at a lumber mill and doesn't come home of a week. Ethel and me says, "No thank you, ma'am," after the first hunk, but little Garney just eats and eats. I don't reckon he's ever had such as that before. Dreama and Ray is spoilt, I think, but Oakley is real nice. In fact, he is too nice. I guess I'm like Daddy and hate to be beholden for ary thing. Oakley has freckles and a big smile like his mama, but I cannot smile back. Instead, I want to hit him. I cannot say why. So we made our manners and clumb up Sugar Fork, which was coming on for dark, and all the shadders was blue. We crossed Sugar Fork 1-2 times on the crackly ice, and then we come walking up the lastest rise, me and Ethel pulling Garney by the hand atwixt us, and him a-fussing. And then we can see the house sticking up there out in the snow, with smoke rising from the chimney and snow on the roof shakes and icicles hanging down off in the roof. The cedars look so different, all bowed down with snow. And the blue shadows underneath come creeping up towards the house. Law, it looked like a picture book. "This here is Christmas," I says to Garney and Ethel. "Now you mark it." Ivy Road.